The mug is still on the counter, the room is finally quiet, and your thumb is hovering over their name again. You do not even want to send anything dramatic. Maybe just hope you're okay. Maybe just a sentence small enough to pretend it does not mean what it means. That is the part that can make you feel embarrassed. You know they hurt you. You can list the moments, the stomach drop, the apology that never became repair, the silence that made you feel ridiculous for needing basic care. And still, on some random Tuesday, you miss their laugh like your body has forgotten the evidence. I have had to learn that missing someone is not always a vote to return. Sometimes it is the nervous system reaching for a familiar room, even when that room was never safe to live in. So the deeper question is not, why do I still miss them? It is this: what part of you is grieving the person they sometimes were, while another part is trying to protect you from the person they repeatedly became? The memory usually edits kindly. It does not always begin with the argument, the cold text, the way your chest tightened before you checked your phone. It begins with the easy scene, the grocery run where you laughed over nothing, the drive home with rain tapping the windshield, the night they knew exactly what to say, and for a few hours you felt chosen instead of confused. That is why missing them can feel so convincing. Your mind may not be missing the full relationship. It may be missing the most beautiful evidence that the relationship could have been different. The good version becomes like a photograph you keep touching with your thumb. It is real. That matters. But a photograph is not the whole house. It does not show the room where you waited. It does not show the kitchen light left on while you rehearsed a sentence you were afraid to say. It does not show the morning after, when you had to act normal because they had been warm again, and somehow that made the hurt harder to explain. This is one reason painful bonds can be so hard to release. The person was not harmful every second. If they had been cruel all the time, leaving might have felt cleaner. But inconsistency creates a special kind of confusion. Warmth, distance, apology, tenderness, disappointment, then warmth again. Your heart starts studying the pattern like there is a code hidden inside it. Attachment psychology helps explain this. When care arrives unpredictably, the nervous system can become more focused, not less. You start waiting for the next good moment. You remember the tenderness because tenderness felt like proof that the pain was not the whole story. And it wasn't, but it was not enough either. I think this is where people shame themselves unnecessarily. They say, "How can I miss someone who hurt me?" As if missing them means the hurt was imaginary. It does not. Missing the soft moments does not erase the damaging ones. It only means your heart is capable of remembering complexity. Maybe you remember the birthday message and forget the 3 days they disappeared after a hard conversation. Maybe you remember the way they held your hand in public and forget how alone you felt explaining your needs in private. Maybe you remember the apology because it sounded beautiful, while your body remembers that nothing actually changed. A cleaner question is, am I missing who they were consistently or who they became occasionally? That question can hurt. It can also save you from confusing a glimpse with a home. Because sometimes the hardest person to let go of is not the person standing in front of you. It is the version of them you met briefly, loved deeply, and kept waiting for, long after the pattern had already told you who was really there. There is a moment after pain when relief can feel almost holy. They finally reply. They soften their voice. They touch your shoulder. They say the thing you needed to hear 3 days ago. and your whole body loosens before your mind can argue. Your jaw unclenches, your breath comes back, the headache behind your forehead fades a little. That relief becomes powerful, not because the problem is solved, but because the tension stopped. This is where missing someone can become physical. You may not be longing for the actual relationship as much as you are longing for the nervous system drop that happened when they came close again. The body can confuse relief with safety. It can remember the moment the alarm went quiet and treat that quiet as love. That does not make you irrational. It makes you human. When someone hurts you and then becomes the person who comforts you after the hurt, your system can start linking them to both danger and rescue. One part of you braces around them. Another part waits for them to soothe the bracing. That loop is exhausting, but it can also become familiar enough to feel like attachment. Think of the phone lighting up after a long silence. You told yourself you were done checking. Then the vibration comes, tiny and ridiculous, and your stomach flips. You may even smile before you remember you are angry. That is the humiliating part. Your face reacts to their name faster than your dignity can catch up. For a second, the waiting ends, and your body mistakes the end of anxiety for the beginning of love. Intermittent reinforcement is one simple way to understand this. When rewards arrive unpredictably, people often keep reaching for them. Not because the reward is healthier, but because uncertainty makes the reward feel more intense. A little warmth after a long, cold stretch can feel bigger than steady kindness ever had to feel. I have mistaken intensity for importance. I remember thinking one late reply meant they still cared, when really, it only meant the silence had finally stopped hurting for a minute. That is a painful distinction. But without it, relief starts wearing the costume of repair. The reframe is not to hate yourself for missing them. It is to ask what your body is actually missing. Is it missing love, or is it missing the end of panic? Is it missing closeness, or the brief calm after emotional distance? Is it missing them, or the version of you who finally felt wanted when they came back? Once you can separate relief from repair, the memory becomes less controlling. You can honor what your body felt without letting it choose the whole direction of your life. And that matters because the next layer is often even more tender. Sometimes you miss them because you were trying to finish a story that never gave you an ending. Some people leave your life cleanly. The door closes. The meaning is painful, but clear. Other people leave behind a room full of question marks. One last conversation that never happened. One apology that sounded almost real, but did not change anything. One text you wrote and deleted because you knew it would only reopen the wound. Unfinished endings have a way of staying loud. You can be making coffee, folding a shirt, sitting at a red light, and suddenly your mind starts building the conversation again. You imagine what you would say if they finally admitted it. You imagine them understanding. You imagine your voice staying calm this time. Maybe you imagine them saying, "I see it now. I know what I did." You are not crazy for feeling hurt, and maybe that is the sentence you keep chasing. But in real life, what you got was not clarity. It was another foggy sentence you had to translate alone. Not because you want the relationship back exactly. Sometimes you want the past to become coherent. You want one clean moment where the fog clears and the pain stops looking like something you invented. Your mind is trying to organize emotional debris. It wants a reason, a clean sentence, a final scene where the pain is witnessed and your dignity is returned to you. That desire is not childish. Being hurt without being understood leaves a strange bruise. It can make you crave contact with the very person who caused the confusion, because they seem to hold the missing explanation. But here is the uncomfortable part. The person who created the confusion may not be capable of giving you the clarity that heals it. They may give you more words, more almost apologies. "I'm sorry you felt that way. I never meant to hurt you. You know how I am." Sentences that sound close to accountability but still leave you alone in the room, translating pain they refuse to name. And if you are not careful, your need for an ending becomes the doorway back into the same pattern. I have had moments where I thought I wanted closure. But what I actually wanted was for someone to finally become honest enough that my love would not feel wasted. That is a different hunger, a deeper one. Psychologically, unresolved social pain can pull attention like unfinished business. The brain keeps returning because it has not filed the experience as complete. But completion does not always come from the other person. Sometimes, it comes from telling the truth without their participation. The small turn may sound too quiet at first. I do not need them to validate the pain for the pain to count. You can write the sentence you needed to hear and still know they may never say it. You can name the pattern in your own room with the refrigerator humming and the floor cold under your feet. And let that naming become a kind of ending. Not dramatic, not perfect, enough. Because if your healing depends on their final honesty, they still control the last page of your story. And the next page may require something harder than getting an explanation. It may require grieving the hope that explanation was supposed to protect. Missing someone who hurt you is not only about the past. Often, it is about the future you had already started furnishing in your mind. The weekend plans, the inside jokes that were supposed to last, the holidays you pictured, the ordinary Tuesday nights with takeout containers on the table and someone knowing how you like your drink. Maybe you imagined becoming softer with them, more understood, less alone. Maybe you did not tell anyone how much you had quietly built around that possibility. Then the relationship ended, or changed, or revealed itself. And now you are not only grieving what happened, you are grieving what was supposed to happen next. That grief can feel confusing because people may say, "But they hurt you. You're better off." And maybe you are, but being better off does not cancel the loss of the imagined life. A bad relationship can still contain a real dream. A painful person can still be attached to hopes that were innocent before they became expensive. You might notice this when something ordinary hits you. A certain aisle in Target, a song in a gas station, a restaurant you never got to try together. Their contact still sitting in your favorites because removing it feels like admitting something final. A hoodie in the closet that no longer smells like them, but still somehow changes the room when you see it. Your chest tightens, not because you forgot the damage, but because your brain briefly re-enters the timeline where things worked out. That timeline was never fully real. But your heart still spent time there. This is why grief can feel like missing someone and missing yourself at the same time. You may miss the version of you who believed it could be simple, the version who sent the long message with hope in it, the version who bought the small gift, saved the funny video, imagined telling them good news first. I do not think we talk enough about the embarrassment of grieving a future. It can feel foolish to mourn something that never arrived. But the body does not only bond with facts, it bonds with anticipation, with ritual, with imagined belonging, with the nervous little hope that maybe this is where life finally gets gentler. The reframe is not to mock that hope, Hope is not the enemy. Hope is part of what made you willing to love. But hope needs evidence to become trust. Without evidence, hope becomes a room you keep decorating for someone who does not live there. You keep arranging the furniture. You keep leaving the light on. You keep making emotional space for a version of them who only visits when your memory is lonely. So when you miss them, try asking, what future did I attach to this person? And is there any part of that future I can still build without them? Maybe you still want tenderness, stability, laughter, a home that feels peaceful, a person who does not make honesty feel dangerous. Missing them may reveal what you wanted. It does not prove they were the only one who could give it. And once you see that, the grief starts to shift. You are not only letting go of them, you are learning to rescue your future from the person you mistakenly handed it to. There is a kind of calm that does not feel calm at first. It feels boring, suspicious, too quiet. Like standing in a clean room after years of living beside a smoke alarm that kept going off. When someone has hurt you repeatedly, your system can become trained around emotional weather, waiting, reading tone, preparing your explanation, feeling the room before you enter it, watching their face for the small change that tells you whether today will be warm or cold. Then, when the person is gone, peace arrives, and peace can feel like withdrawal. No message to decode, no mood to manage, no sudden warmth to chase, no argument to replay while brushing your teeth. Just space. And in that space, your body may start searching for the old intensity because intensity was familiar, not healthy. Familiar. This is one of the hardest truths to admit. Sometimes you do not miss the pain exactly. You miss the structure pain gave your day, the mission, the problem to solve, the person to win back, the little emotional emergencies that kept you from sitting alone with yourself. If chaos has been around long enough, stability can feel empty before it feels safe. Attachment theory offers a useful lens here. Early experiences and repeated relational patterns can teach the nervous system what closeness is supposed to feel like. If closeness was mixed with anxiety, distance, criticism, or unpredictability, then later love may feel strangely real only when it carries a little fear. A steady person can seem flat. A respectful silence can feel like disinterest. A calm day can feel like something is missing. That missing thing may not be love. It may be adrenaline. I say that gently because nobody chooses this on purpose. You do not wake up and decide to prefer pain. Often, your body is just loyal to what it learned first or what it repeated most. It reaches for the known shape, even when the known shape bruised you. The private behavior may look like checking their profile when you were finally having a decent day. Not because you need information, but because peace feels almost too open. Maybe the evening was fine. The sink was clean enough. The room was quiet. You had almost made it through without thinking of them. Then, some restless part of you reached for the wound like it was a light switch. Maybe you checked their profile and felt stupid before the page even loaded. You wanted to hit a feeling, even a painful one. Something to make the silence familiar again. The turn is to practice not confusing discomfort with danger. Peace may feel uncomfortable because it is new, not because it is wrong. A relationship that does not keep you guessing may feel less intense because it is not constantly activating fear. You can miss the old chaos and still refuse to call it home. That sentence is small, but it carries weight because healing is not always a grand awakening. Sometimes it is sitting in a quiet evening, feeling the urge to reopen the wound. and letting the quiet remain unfamiliar a little longer. The ache can get persuasive at night. It waits until your guard is down, until the house is dim, until your better judgment is tired. Then it starts making a case. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe they've changed. Maybe you were too harsh. Maybe one message would not hurt. One message can feel harmless when loneliness is holding the phone. Maybe you missed them, then hated yourself for missing them, then missed them again 5 minutes later. That kind of contradiction can make a person feel ridiculous. It does not make them weak, because missing someone is a feeling, not an instruction. Feelings deserve attention. They do not always deserve obedience. This is where self-trust has to become practical, not cold, not bitter. Practical. You can let the feeling rise without letting it drive. You can say, "I miss them," and still remember what happened when you were close. You can miss their voice and still remember the way your own voice disappeared. You can miss their warmth and still remember the cost of waiting for it. A boundary is not a punishment for missing them. It is protection for the version of you who finally stopped shrinking. That protection may look ordinary, deleting the draft instead of sending it, leaving the phone in another room, calling a friend who will not romanticize the pain for you. Maybe it is midnight and you open the Notes app with your hands still a little shaky. Not to write a speech, not to send them proof. Just 3 plain facts: what happened, how often it happened, and what actually changed after they apologized. Facts are not there to make you cruel. They are there to keep memory honest when longing becomes a skilled editor. I have had to learn that the heart can be sincere and still be unreliable under distress. It can want comfort from the familiar person even when the familiar person is connected to the wound. That does not make the heart stupid. It means the heart needs the adult part of you to stay nearby. So do not turn missing them into a courtroom where you put yourself on trial. You are allowed to miss the laugh, the hand, the ordinary routines, the hope, the person they almost were on their best days. But you are also allowed to remember yourself, the self who waited too long, the self who kept explaining, the self who felt relief when it should have felt safety. The self who is now trying to build a life where love does not require constant recovery afterward. Missing them may visit you. Let it visit. Do not let it move back in, because the goal is not to become someone who feels nothing. The goal is to become someone who can feel the ache without handing the keys back to the source of it. Because sometimes healing is not deleting the memory. It is refusing to let the memory become a door. The next time you miss them, do not panic and do not worship the feeling. Let it sit beside you while the mug cools on the counter. Let the room stay quiet without turning that quiet into a reason to reach back. Yes, there were moments you loved. Yes, some of it was real. And yes, the hurt was real too. I think healing begins when you stop leaving the light on for someone who only knew how to visit, not stay. You can grieve the dream without reopening the door. Write this where you can see it. I can miss what was beautiful without returning to what broke me.